All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Maximizing Your Salesforce Effectiveness with Microsoft Dynamics CRM. Before we kick things off today, we just got a couple of house cleaning things before we get started. Everyone is in mute mode. If you're unable to hear the audio portion of the webinar, here's the dial-in as well as the access code. Please hold all of your questions until the end. We're going to unmute everyone, and we will be using the questions section of your GoToWebinar dashboard. So we do ask that you hold those until the end. Allow me to fill you in a little bit about QTS. Who are we? So we are a systems integrator and managed service provider with over 4 gold level competencies from Microsoft. We have been Partner of the Year for 7 out of the last 8 years for the New York Metro District that we've ran. And we've been in business for just about 25 years next year. So I'm seeing some familiar names on my sidebar, so glad to have you back, and a lot of new names as well, so welcome. Allow me to introduce our presenters today. We have Jeff Wallace from QTS, who'll be answering some questions later on. We also have James Beck from Microsoft and Michelle Horn from InsideView with us today. So we are jam-packed with demos and valuable information on Dynamics CRM, so I'm going to turn it over to James Beck just about right now. There we go.
Hi, everybody. Again, my name is James Beck. I'm a solution architect with Microsoft, and today I'm going to talk about how Dynamics CRM can enable your sales professionals in any industry to sell effectively by enhancing sales productivity and delivering amazing customer experiences. So I'll cover how the sales landscape has changed and how the pressures that many sales organizations are facing today. We're going to review Microsoft's unique value proposition, especially when it comes to helping sales teams sell more effectively. And I'm going to show you some specific demos of our capabilities to help these sales teams succeed in the modern era of selling. So to start off, it's good to acknowledge that the way that people buy has changed. There's more information, more people involved in making choices, and it's become a mobile and social world. So as a result, the buying process is much more complicated, and buyers are more informed, independent, savvy, and highly influential. What we're seeing is that when salespeople, they're about 57% of the way through the process. So they've done their sales, starting to ask about price and skill business. So what we're seeing is that salespeople are under increased pressure to sell, and again, with this complicated environment, it's really more important to provide the best-in-class tools to these salespeople to guide them through the selling process, give them information about the business, give them information about their customers. What we're seeing is that sellers are only spending about 1/3 of the time selling at this point. So that's again why it's so important to give them these tools. And if they have to switch between a bunch of different tools, that productivity just tanks. So the key to long-term success in this new environment is freeing up salespeople to focus on engaging, developing, and building those customer relationships. And it means that the sales leaders need solutions that help the salespeople stay focused, win faster, and build trust. So I'm going to go into each one of these areas real quick. So stay focused. This is really about maximizing the time and the effectiveness of your time and focusing on the right business, the right customers, the right prospects, and providing a view of the business and how you're doing in sales performance. This allows managers to identify top performers, coach developing reps, and share best practices across the team. And ultimately, sales leaders just really need to be able to make better decisions based on the insights in their business. So winning faster. Sellers really need to be able to work more efficiently and focus their time on selling activities and also collaborate around deals. So a lot of times, there's multiple people involved in the process, and everybody needs a single view of what's happening as far as that selling process, and a clear handoff from step to step of who needs to take what action. In today's world, it's always, as we all know, it's critical that we're able to work mobilely, anytime, anywhere, from any device, and that's what the Dynamics platform provides. So how do we build trust with our customers? Well, one thing is to provide differentiated service, to anticipate your customers' needs. To provide consistent interaction so that when you call in, all the information is consistent and everybody has access to the same information about that customer. And it really just, the bottom line here is that when you're leveraging an integrated tool set, and especially applying things like social selling, to be able to close deals. So what does Microsoft Dynamics provide? It really provides all the tools from marketing through the sales cycle and then cycle. So as far as marketing, allows you to build your brand and engage with those customers one-on-one to demonstrate the impact of those marketing initiatives. And selling effectively, again, allowing you to focus on what matters, win faster, and build trust, and service those customers. And we're not going to go into a lot of service today, but any service opportunity can also be turned into a sales opportunity as well. So it's very important that you have an integrated platform that has that unified view of the customer. So I'm going to dive down into some specific areas right now around opportunity management, social selling, planning, content collaboration, mobile sales, and sales intelligence. I'm going to show you some demos as we go through each area. Now, the first thing I want to talk about, and this is a huge differentiator for Microsoft, is the ability to weave in all of the business productivity tools that your sellers are already using in their day-to-day activities and integrate that with the CRM platform so that, again, it's a seamless experience and you have access to all of that information and you spend less time trying to figure out how to get information from one system to the other. I'm going to show you some specific demos about this as we go along. The first thing I want to show you is how we can integrate Outlook with CRM. So as you see here, an email has come in and we decided to track this email in the CRM system. Now we don't have, it's not automatically finding the match, so when I search for Northwind, it brings up the opportunities associated with that and allows me to jump right into that opportunity as well and track that email within the system so I can see a record of that call, as you see here. So the next thing I want to talk about is opportunity management. So how do we get a unified view of all of your account information, contact information, opportunity information, and how do we work with partners to co-sell in a collaborative way? So one of the things that we have recently provided on the platform is a seamless way to present a portal out to any of the selling teams that you have. But right now what I'm going to show you is how we can get the unified view of that customer and work in the Dynamics CRM system. So before I dive into the opportunity, let me just give you a lay of the land of Dynamics CRM. So Veronica is a sales rep here, and as you can see, when she logs into CRM, she gets a dashboard of all of her activities. So she can see her pipeline, how she's performing against that, performance against specific goals for the quarter, any open leads that have come in through the system, a list of all the opportunities that she's working on, how she's doing in comparison to some of her other peers. So Molly is really crushing it right now. And any activities that she needs to take. And these can be things that she, again, created from an email, were assigned through the system automatically, or just follow-ups through the opportunity process. When I look at the navigation here, what you can see is that she has access to all of the tools that she needs to do her job. She can look at the marketing list, she can dive into her goals, she can of course drill down to leads and opportunities. But typically a lot of ways people work with the CRM is they just want to search for what they want. So if she does a search here for Northwind, one of her accounts, Northwind Traders, she can see all of the records associated with that in this global search. This makes it really easy to find information in the system, but perhaps if she just wanted to scope this down to specific records, she could just choose an account, for example. And if she looks into that account, she's going to get all the information about what's happened in that account, what's currently happening, all of the contacts there, and all of the activities that have taken place, whether it's a customer meeting, an email, phone calls, all of that information. So the next thing I want to show you is the fact that the system is smart enough that it remembers, of course, what you're doing. And one of the ways that I always like to navigate is to look at my recent records, because I find that I'm bouncing back and forth between different opportunities, and I can pin these up to the top as well. So if I look at an opportunity here, what you're going to see is, again, all of the activities that have happened around that opportunity. I can see all my notes, my phone calls, so everything that's involved there, regardless of who created that activity. But across the top, this is one of the most valuable pieces here. This is our business process toolbar. And this allows you to track the process of those deals, and you can customize this very easily with drag and drop configuration to map to your specific business process. You can also automate processes as well, so that based on certain actions, you can branch the business process. You can also have this process run across multiple entities. So if you need to kick off into a specific validation or review process, it can bring up the appropriate forms at the right time for those users. And you'll notice here, as I look at the next steps, I can see as a seller what needs to be done at that stage. So I can go in and mark these things complete, and then I can also say, well, we're not going to progress this opportunity to the next stage until certain actions have been taken. So this really helps you manage the process and focus on what have your sellers focus on what they're doing. And the bottom line is it really keeps things from falling through the cracks and helps you comply with your specific business processes. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to talk about is planning and management. So we've recently added in gamification into the system as well. But from a sales rep, what are the key things that you want to do? We see that a lot of salespeople use Excel to manage their business. And one of the powers of the Dynamics platform is the integrated capabilities with Office and Office 365. So what I'm going to show you here is if I go into a view, and if Veronica is looking at her open opportunities, she can actually work with these in a bulk way. She can use templates in Excel and launch this right in the same UI using Excel Online to bring up her pipeline management spreadsheet. And so what you see here is all of the opportunities that she has in the pipeline in a visual way, but one of the really important capabilities here is the ability to update this in batch mode. So she can go through and change the sales stage or the status of an opportunity, or maybe change the forecast or the probability of close, and then sync that right back into CRM. So if she makes changes here, all of those changes will be uploaded at once. And this really helps streamline the process of managing your business. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is sales intelligence. This is so critical now, again, to better understand your business, focus on the right activities, understand who's doing well and who's not doing well, where to engage as a manager, and actually be able to predict where things are going to go in the future for your business. So one of the tools that we have tightly integrated with CRM is Power BI. And Power BI allows you to create customized dashboards about your business. And it's really easy to pull these things in and configure these dashboards. It automatically can sync data from the CRM system, so you don't have to do any development or coding to integrate this with Dynamics CRM. It's all out of the box. And if I can drill down into different areas here, for example, if I want to look at how Veronica's doing, I can drill down into this again, into my sales pipeline dashboard. And if I select areas here, you notice that it is scoping these opportunities to these specific sales reps. So as a manager, this really helps me understand who's doing what, where we're doing well, and again, where to engage to better manage the business. The other really important feature is that you can integrate that dynamic CRM sales information with external information. So we have all these pre-built, literally hundreds of pre-built integrations to other services. So if you're using other marketing tools such as Quick Dimensions or Marketo, you can, or maybe Google Analytics to analyze your traffic, you can pull that in and mingle that in with the same dashboard and give you that operational reporting. All right, so again, one of the things that salespeople are always doing is creating documents, sending documents out to customers, and managing proposals, things like that. So it's really important that you have these tools built into the CRM system as well. And I'm just going to show you a quick demonstration of a couple capabilities. So what you're looking at here is, again, Northwind printers. And if I go into the Office 365 groups area, I can see a calendar, a team calendar. I can see a running list of conversations about that account in a social way. That could come from Yammer, for example. I can see all the team members that are there, and I can also see all of the documents that are associated with that. Now, if I want to drill down specifically into the documents area, I can see that we have documents coming from Sharepoint, from OneDrive, and this allows us to leverage the power of those document management systems, but again, keep that integrated within the CRM system so that the people who need access to that information have it immediately. Okay, so let's talk about mobile sales. Dynamics CRM has a great mobile app, and it really allows you to work in any mode, right? So when you're on the go, you need to find a contact or look at a dashboard. All of that information, all the information that's in the Dynamics system is available through that rich mobile app. One of the key differentiators for the Dynamics CRM solution is the ability to take this offline. So actually, if you're on a train or a plane and you want to make updates to a record, you can do that on your phone and have that sync back up when you connect. So I'm going to show you a couple different things here. Now this is mobile integrated with Cortana, and you can see here I can search the CRM system directly from my Windows dashboard. So I'm using a Surface right now, and this is showing what this looks like on a Surface. The experience in the mobile app though is similar across any iOS, Android devices as well. And so you can see in a large form factor the ability to scroll through and see all that information in a very responsive way. Again, access to all of the documents that are associated with those opportunities, and all of this is available from the phone. So I can launch these on my, using the PowerPoint app on my iPhone or Android phone, etc. Now I'm actually going to flip over and show you. This is the actual app running on my Surface. And as I'm using my finger now to flip through the information, you can see that I can drill down into this. And if I want to talk to Alex, for example, I can just bring up his record and make a phone call from here. And what you'll see is that this is actually going to create a phone call log for that call. So I can go in and update that information. And if I'm on the road, really quickly make a phone call, schedule a follow-up, and take that action without losing any time. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is social selling. And this is a really important differentiator for the Dynamics platform as well, and that you can understand what's happening, as far as the sentiment on social networks. And then you can actually take action on those things. So I'm going to launch into our social engagement dashboard. And what you'll see here is that I've scoped this to 1-800-Flowers. And I can get a sense for what's happening over time. So I scoped this time frame to cover back through Mother's Day. As you can see, there's a lot of activity right around Mother's Day, and then it drops off. That's one of the biggest flower selling times of the year. But I can navigate this information in lots of different ways. I can look at specific conversations that are happening, understand the sentiment of that. I can also see how things are trending over time. So here are the key phrases that are coming up related to 1-800-Flowers. I can also say, okay, well, we did pretty well, right? We got a lot of positive reviews over that time. One of the other key things I can do is look at an activity map and scope this to a specific area. So if I want to see how did we do in the Northeast, I can look at the sentiment there. And this one actually I had scoped to Sprint. So for, if perhaps I'm a Verizon rep, I might want to look and say, hey, where are we doing, or where's Sprint doing poorly? And I can drill down into those things and actually create leads from a specific post. So this is just an example of, hey, I found a tweet here and somebody was really upset with Sprint. So I can go ahead and create a lead from that, log a note, and then this lead will show up in the CRM system. So there's lots of applications for this. You can use this on the service side as well to manage cases. So if customers aren't happy, you can actually respond to them through the system. But very powerful. And in today's social world, it's extremely important that you adopt a strategy to manage your brand. Okay, so what did we cover here? Well, we talked about how we can increase productivity with embedded guidance, leveraging things like immersive Excel and integration with the other Office tools. How you can get a better management of your business and understanding of what's happening in your business to make better decisions using all of the built-in analytics and tools there. How do you work together as a team to co-sell and respond to your customers effectively in a consistent way, and work mobily from any time and any place. So now I'm going to turn it over to Michelle Horn, who's going to cover the value that InsideView can provide to your sales organizations.
Great, thanks. And actually, I'm just grabbing the reins right now. All right, so everybody should be able to see my screen. Are we good?
Looks good.
Okay, fantastic, thanks. So my name is Michelle Horn, and I am the Microsoft Channel Manager for InsideView. And I really want to talk to you guys about how do you really accelerate your revenue using InsideView, and you'll also hear something called Insights that is built into Microsoft CRM Online licenses. So just a quick overview of what InsideView is. So InsideView is really a marketing and sales intelligence platform. We gather data from over 40,000 sources, and it's really trying to we pull data from the left a little bit, from the right, in the middle, and the top, and the bottom, and we put that all together into one gigantic profile, both for companies and for people. So the goal is to pull this stuff all together, and it's a very big technology play. We have really incredible algorithms that are doing all this stuff for us all the time. So what we do, again, is we pull it all from these different places, and then we validate it. So if I see James has his name in 3 different places, and he's got 2 different, we've got these algorithms that are trying to work out what's his best title most likely. So we put that all together, and then this is this validation process. So, so InsideView has a bunch of solutions, and we're going to talk about outbound revenue, inbound revenue, some sales effectiveness, and a little bit of customer data management. And the 4 that we're going to concentrate on today of what we do are target, enrich, and clean in sales. So that we're all talking about the same thing, I want to talk about some marketing challenges, some sales challenges, and I'm going to actually dive into some demo with you guys. So from a marketing perspective, right, the marketing's job is to go get new leads, right, and however they get those leads, they're going to get new leads, and then they have to market to their existing database, right? And so for us, marketing and sales are one continuous motion, right? Marketing is just somebody that doesn't have a face and they don't have a phone number, right? But they're still doing the same thing. We all need to drive towards the same goal. So it's one continuous motion, ultimately. So here's some specific sales challenges that we deal with. 92% of buyers ignore unsolicited calls or emails, so it's very, very hard for us to get through. And I mean us as a society. It's very hard to get through to buyers now. 58% of sales reps are not prepared, and this is according to an enterprise study of buyers, that they said their sales reps were not prepared. And then for me, the most staggering one is only 7% of salespeople get a second meeting, right? So we've got to work harder. We've got to do a lot better job. And as James mentioned earlier, people are so far down the buying process, right? We need to interrupt them. We need to say something that's different as opposed to the same old thing, right? We have to do something and get their attention. So from a salesperson's perspective, there's 3 components. If I only have the data as a salesperson and I start calling a company and I only have a contact, I don't have the data about the company, I have a very low chance of having a successful conversation. That's 6 to 8%, and that is the adage, you know, a salesperson picks up the phone 10 times and it gets slammed down on 9 times. So that is not fun as a salesperson. But where it does get interesting is that if you have a very specific business trigger, something that happens in their business, and I can talk to that, I get a much higher response rate, which is 24 to 32%. So now as a salesperson, right, 1 out of 4, that's a pretty good chance. I'm willing to take that chance. And then the best one still goes back to, it's still all about who we know, right? It's about that warm introduction. And from a 44 to 84% rate, and the differences in those 2 numbers is 44% is external and 84% is internal to the company. So if you put all these things together, I have a much better chance of getting in and winning than if I only have the data about a company. So let's jump into, I'm going to do a couple of demos. So what I'm going to do is I want to talk to you about a day in the life of. So I'm going to bring up Microsoft, and I'm going to go into my lead. So I'm going to do a day in the life of a marketing person, right, because it comes in from marketing first, and it's going to sail all the way through into sales. So let's go talk about, oops, I guess I have to go to the right spot. So let's talk about how this all works from a marketing and flowing through into a sales. So I'm going to go to my lead over here, Umberto. So when a lead gets in the system, there are generally 2 tasks that a marketer needs to accomplish. The first one is that the lead needs to get enriched for marketing to do the segmentation. And enriched means it needs to go fill in as many fields as possible so that we can pull up and say, I want to target this industry or this type of person or whatever the case may be, or this location, right? We need to fill in all that data. So, and then the other reason we fill in that data, not just from a selfish marketing perspective, but it is to give the salesperson now an idea of where to go from there, right? We're going to help them prioritize it. So 1, we need to get to the right person, and 2, we need to tee it up for them so that they can figure out, should I go after this one or not, right? So if a salesperson gets in 10 leads, there are some leads that are going to be better than others. That's the way that it works. And so the question is can we elevate, can we bubble up the ones that make more sense for them to the top and the ones that make less sense for them to the bottom? Let's help them be more effective, right? And the more effective they are, the happier they are with the marketing. So here's the way that this works. So I have Umberto Maletti here as a lead, and I have his email. So I have these 2 pieces of information about him. InsideView, or Insights, it also is down here as a little window. So the way that InsideView and Insights works is Insights is actually owned by Microsoft, and it's powered by InsideView. So this little window that sits down there is available as part of the price point for anybody that has Microsoft CRM Online Professional or Enterprise licenses, right? So if somebody's online, and then the 2 bigger ones, everybody gets this, right? It just needs to be installed. And so the bonus here is that when I have this lead, I'm going to go down here to the sync button, and I'm going to click on it once, and what it's going to do is it's going to look at your database, it's going to look at the InsideView global database, and it's going to say, hey, look, we've got this data, do you want it? And I'm going to say, yeah, please, don't make me enter any data. So all of these fields that are checkmarked are going to come over. So I'm going to click update the lead, and now all of the leads are going to, and it's a one-way sync from InsideView down to your CRM. So now all of that information is now going to show up for Umberto Maletti, right? So I just have to refresh my screen, and it'll pull up all of that data. Or it could just error out on me. That's awesome. All right, let's go do that again. So it should have actually already, yep, so see it populated Umberto, even though it was mad at me. So it's got the phone, and that was Microsoft CRM. It didn't really want to reload the page, right? So it's got the annual revenue, it's got the number of employees, it's got an address, it's got a website. So now, again, from a marketing perspective, I have the data filled out, and from a sales perspective, I know if they're in my sweet spot or not. Maybe 25 million is in my sweet spot, maybe it's too big, maybe it's too small, right? So if I don't get many leads, I certainly can do a manual lookup of those leads and then go update them one by one. But if I get a bunch of leads, or if I'm somebody that naturally gets wrapped up in projects and I can get behind, then that piece of the puzzle can actually be automated on the back end through another service that InsideView does called Lead Enrich. So instead of doing that manual sync, they just happen automatically. So it doesn't matter how the lead comes through, whether it comes through a form, it gets imported into a list, or somebody inputs it manually. Then all those leads have that proper data, right? The other bonus that Lead Enrich, this service offers, is that when you have web forms, right, you have a choice between asking a lot of questions and a few questions. The more you want to qualify a lead, the more questions you have to ask, right? You have to ask what industry they're in, how big they are, and some of those pieces of data. Well, if you have something that goes and fills in the data on the back end, again, whether it's a person pushing a button or a product that's actually doing it for you, the nice thing is that you can make those, ask less questions on your web forms, and that means you get a higher submission rate automatically, right? And so that's the whole goal, is to pull those numbers down, those questions down, and to increase your submission rate. And you're getting in all the data at the same time. So it's kind of having your cake and eating it too. All right, so let's switch gears and kind of talk about that outbound messaging. So the first issue that everyone's having is, now I have to get my net new leads. So one of the things that is possible, do some list building with InsideView. This target sits outside of Insights, but the nice thing is that, you know, with Target you can do these lists yourself. So you can change not only the criteria, you can do analysis. You know, the list gets imported into CRM and then you act upon it. So in this case, there are 46,000, almost 47,000 people in the InsideView database that are in the manufacturing, that have emails in the United States, that are in sales, that are above 50 million. I hit search, it gives me all those people, right? And I may pull that list down quite a bit. I probably wouldn't export 50,000 people at a time. But once you get that list, you export that list and it comes right out. You get that into CRM and it has all of the fields we've been talking about, right? It's got all of that correct data. So the other issue that's very top of mind with marketing right now is kind of the cleanliness of their database. If you don't have all of the database fields filled in, and I'm going to come back here to CRM, if you don't have all of those database fields filled in, then it gets really hard, again, for marketing to do their segmentation, for, you know, to use the BI reporting that James was showing you about, right? It's really hard if you don't have the data. And so we can enrich that data and do it in the background. And then one of my favorite things to recommend is really about validating existing email addresses. We have companies come to us all the time that say, great, I have 50,000 people in my database, but I don't know if they're still there, or if they've moved, or we know that that happens. So you can validate emails, and that gives you two directions to go. One is you could potentially pull your cost of your marketing automation tool down, because they charge you typically per lead, or you can go find the right people and put them in, instead of having 25% of the database that you're marketing to be unusable. So there's that piece of the puzzle. So, now the whole goal is marketing has the right leads and contacts. So let's shift gears into sales. So I'm going to show you insights. So I showed you the lead. So the lead you can do an update with. In the data, all of this data I'm going to show you right now in the accounts is also at the lead level, but I'm going to switch gears into accounts. So now marketing's done their work. I have created an account, right? There's somebody's living and breathing there. And actually, I'm going to go to Amgen. Give me 1 second. So now the first thing that I want to do now that I own this account, is I want to make sure that my account's updated. So similar process, I'm going to go to the sync button. And it's going to check your database. It's going to check the InsideView database. It says, hey, Michelle, you have a couple of either blank fields or different fields. So notice I've got 3 different data points here. So I'm going to come scroll to the bottom, and I'm going to update my account. So now my account's updated, which is perfect, right? So now my whole goal as a salesperson is to start some account research. So now I've got this account research, and let's see if it's going to scream at me again. I'm just refreshing the page so that we can see all of the data points pulled back in. Yay. Okay, so now I've got all that stuff. So now I'm going to move into research mode. So here's how a salesperson normally does it. The most popular method for account research right now is typically to do either a Google or Bing search on the company. So let me put this in perspective for you. So if I do a Bing search for Amgen, I get almost 7 million results, right? So the challenge is that this is too many. So as a salesperson, I might go through the top 2, 3, or maybe if I'm really patient, the 4th page, but this is mostly going to be a waste of time and it's a lot of noise. I might also go to their website, but that's only going to tell me about what they do, not necessarily what's going on in their business and how I can be relevant, right? And the whole goal is, remember that 92% of people ignore calls or emails. How do I get past that? Okay. So in this case, just notice here on Bing, Amgen comes up, the official site. Okay, so I can get to there. It's a little bit of news about Amgen. It's a bunch of stuff about they have a huge biking tour, right? For me, this isn't really any good sales data, right? This is very hard for me. But if we switch into your CRM, notice down here that there's some very specific stuff going on in Amgen right now. There's a marketing executive that was in the news. There was a leadership change. There was a company presentation. There's all of these very specific business triggers that would allow me to either write an email or call somebody and say something super relevant. I know that you have this corporate challenge here. We've helped other companies that have that challenge do X, Y, and Z. And I will tell you that our sales coach that helps us, that helps InsideView, he actually, all of his companies use InsideView as well as us, and the same method, he uses all the same method. So if we go take one of these news events that happen right here and we write a very specific email, we get about a 20% response rate on our emails. That is unheard of. I mean, how many times, if any of you guys are in sales or know a salesperson writes emails all day long that get ignored. 20% is an amazing result. So if you take something from here and talk about the relevancy of what's going on in their business and how you can help, it really sets you apart. So there's the data about the company. And again, it's right within CRM. So InsideView, so Insights, which is the one that comes for free with Microsoft CRM Online or is built into the price point, we have all of these different types of events. We have 18 of these triggers that are pre-made. However, if there's some kind of trigger that you want to listen to for your own company, which I'm a big fan of that actually is also available in our enterprise version. So for instance, I had a logistics company that was looking for people that were shipping really big volume items like lumber or vessels, so they could listen specifically for those things. We had another company that was selling into oil and gas, but they were looking primarily for companies that were doing fracking, so they had a very specific fracking trigger that was, again, think about this listening to the company, right? So this is external listening, not listening to you and about your company, but about the companies that you're going after, right? So I've got all these things that we're listening for. So if you want something that's special, then that puts it into a different, into the upgrade called Enterprise. So now, so great. So now we have all this news here. The other thing that I can do here, and I'm just going to get rid of this real quick. The other thing that I can do here is, if I'm a salesperson, let's say I own 30 accounts is low. There are some salespeople that own 60 and 200 accounts, right? And so I, as a salesperson, am not going to go to my account on a daily basis to go see what's going on. So one of the options that we have for them is to create a watch list. And what it does is it watches these companies that I asked to follow, and it gives me an email. So in this case, I am already watching Amgen. So every day, if there's if there's anything new in here, it's going to show me in an email. So this is what my news looks like for today. So HP actually had a very specific cancer agent, again, a customized cancer agent, but they also had a new offering. There was something about them underperforming. For Google, now called Alphabet, they had something about cancer as well. They had an acquisition. There was cost cutting. I always do that. Cost cutting. Right? So it's all of these different things in here to try to figure out, how can I get in? Salespeople are great at targeting accounts, saying, I know that's an account I need to get into, but they're not always great at breaking into the account. So these are some of the ways that insights can actually help them break into the account. So let me come back here. So that's this follow and unfollow. The other pieces of data that we have here is we have just the data about the company, all the firmographics. Now I've already synced all this in. But the other things that we have in here is we have ways that a salesperson can research the company. So I can look at the industry information, right? So I'm just going to blow this up a little bit bigger. So it lives inside a CRM and then pops open a little bit bigger window so you can have more real estate. So if I'm selling broadly, this is a great place to go figure out what's going on in that industry, right? If I go from industry to industry to industry. So it gives me a quick overview, some challenges, some trends for their industry, some great call prep questions. What's the size and structure? So that's great to try to get in. The other places that we help you is we have something called the buzz. And by the way, you can also see these things in CRM, right? It's just where you are as to how you see them. In this case, the buzz is talking about what their company is posting, right? And then what others are posting about them. So this is their Twitter and their blog posts, right? And you can also connect to them on Facebook. There's a family tree for those companies that are big enough to actually own companies or be part of the family tree. So whether I'm down here in the middle and I want to go up, or whether I'm up at the top and want to go down, this is a great way to figure out how you can infiltrate that family. Because we all know it's easier to sell to somebody that you already have a relationship with, right? Or somebody that can get me a relationship with one of these folks. We have competitors. Now this competitors tab isn't for all companies. This is actually a hand-built list. And it's typically for bigger companies in, I would say, traditional industries. So in this case, if Amgen is somebody I'm going after, I should probably pay attention to Abbott Laboratories or AbbVie or Affymax. Either pay attention to them or go after them. So those are competitors. I can also follow competitors here. I can literally go click on a competitor and start figuring out what I want to do with them. And then there's some more. So there's all the news we have on them in the last 90 days. There's jobs, and that's powered by another company called Simply Hired. And there's also financial. So if they're public, we're going to have all of their financials, their annual data, their quarterly filings, their SEC filings. All of that stuff we'll have. So, so that's kind of what's included here. The other thing that's really exciting, I think, for folks is that there's a People tab. So now I'm at Amgen, and I still want to start figuring out how I can get into Amgen. So here's the people in Amgen, and let's just say I want to search for some specific people. I want somebody that's a VP, and I want somebody in sales. Okay, so David is a good guy to have, and I'm just going to sync him and pull him right into my database. I can also follow David, so if he says anything in the news, he'll show up in the news as well. Okay, so I can pull them in. What gets really interesting about this is, let me come back up here to the top level, is we have what's called connections, and think of that as LinkedIn on steroids. So if I want to figure out how to get to Ronald Sugar, I can come click on this icon, and what it's going to do is it's going to say, hey Michelle, here's how you can get to Ronald. He used to work at Chevron, and he used to work at Apple. So this is how you can go try to get in. So I might talk to Ronald, and I could say, hey Ronald, I know you worked for Chevron, who loves us, and Apple loves us. I might want to mention a couple recent tweets, or I might want to talk about, by the way, Ronald happened to be mentioned in the news. All different ways for me to have a very relevant, value-added conversation with Ron. Okay? So here's what our connections are doing. So the connections are for your company only. It's a private network. So QTS has their own private network. Nobody else gets to see their people. So the things that we're sharing is we're going through somebody's Outlook address book, their LinkedIn, and their Gmail. But the only pieces of the puzzle that we share are somebody's name, somebody's title, and where they work. We are not sharing any personal data, any emails, any phone numbers, nothing, just the who knows who. And this is for us to help you build that 6 degrees of separation. Who should you know? We put in your reference customers. We put in everybody's work history and everybody's education. And this whole screen takes maybe 15 minutes for people to fill out. But you can see InsideView, we're about 350 people large, and we have connections to just over 24,000 people, right? So that's pretty amazing. So again, let's say I go to HP. I don't know anybody at HP, but I want to figure out how to get to Michael Park. I go click on the connection, and it's going to say, here's Michelle, here's how you can do this. Somebody in my database was a coworker, right? There's all these other things. They were part of a reference customer. And one of my coworkers, Stefan, by the way, has him in his Outlook address book and his LinkedIn, in which case I'm going to say, hey, Stefan, can you do me a favor, please? Can you, whether it's an email or a phone call, can you help me get into this guy, right? So again, it's about how do you kind of get in. And then the last component, so those are all in Insights. The last component that's above and beyond Insights is kind of a tiny list build application that you can do right within here. And that's with the Enterprise version. So that's kind of a little bit about InsideView. I'm just going to quickly pop back here. We've been around since 2007. You can see we have some pretty fantastic logos on there. Microsoft happens to be one of our larger customers. You know, and so from a next steps perspective, if you guys have Insights, go install, and you're B2B, go install Insights, and you can do it through your Office 365 portal. If you have any questions about the things that we talked about, certainly welcome to set up a discussion or any demos if you need be.
Awesome.
So I'm good.
Great. I learned a ton of stuff that I did not know. That was awesome. All right, I'm just going to take presentation back to myself. There we go. So we'll move into our last phase. We'll move into our call to action. As we are a Microsoft Gold partner with 4 different Gold competencies, we adhere very strictly to the solutions framework. If you're familiar with it, it has 5 steps, and we have tailored our offerings to work inside of that and work with it in conjunction. You can find out a little bit more if you email either myself, who you'll receive a follow-up email from later today, QTS account manager Jeff Wallace, or any of the people on the webinar today. I'm sure we could definitely connect you with each other. So as far as next steps are concerned, definitely engage us. Look into a roadmap or a strategy meeting about any one of these offerings that we discussed today. How can we tailor our solutions to fit your needs and really listen to what you're saying. If you have an EA or you have a strategic agreement, planning service vouchers for a quick design, we can get that started for you. If you have training vouchers, this says Windows 10 and SCCM, but that's not what the subject was for today. But if you have training vouchers for a specific subject, we can get them rolling for you, or engage us in a quick start to either implement CRM or work with InsideView. We can definitely connect you with the right people. So stay informed. We are hosting our 9th annual customer conference and technology conference, September 13th of this year in Microsoft New York City. You will receive a link to the registration page in the follow-up email. Check it out. The breakout sessions are going to be fantastic. We're going to have more about CRM there as well. Our next webinar is June 8th, What's New in Sharepoint 2016. Feel free and follow us on any and all social media. We do have all of it, and we are going to be posting the recording of this webinar on our YouTube channel, so look out for that later today. And we will open it up to Q&A. So feel free to use the questions box at the bottom, and we're going to unmute everybody right now. So do we have any questions?